I met Paige at a networking event for small business owners. I was there for work. I do digital marketing for local brands. She was there to meet investors for her new wellness startup. She had this magnetic confidence, the kind that fills a room before she even says anything. Within minutes, she was teasing me about my logo design, asking about SEO strategy, and pitching her brand like it was already the next Glossier. We clicked fast. She was witty, sharp, driven, everything I thought I wanted. We went out the next night. Then again. By week 3, I had memorized the way she stirred her iced coffee and the playlist she always put on while working. 6 months later, she moved in. It wasn't impulsive, exactly. She framed it as practical. She needed to save money, she said, while funneling everything into launching her brand. Rent at her old place was eating her alive, and since I had a decent-sized apartment with a second bedroom, she pitched it like it was a win-win. She'd use the second room as a home office. I'd barely notice her there. At first, I didn't. She worked long hours, always buried in her laptop, planning supplier meetings, setting up trade shows, organizing influencer deals. She had branding mock-ups taped all over the walls. Bottles of tinctures and essential oils and herbal tea samples started taking over our kitchen. I was proud of her. She wasn't just talking about building something, she was doing it. I paid the rent, the bills, the groceries. I didn't even mind. I believed in her, believed in us. Then Damien started coming up. Not in a suspicious way at first, just little mentions. Damien and I brainstormed until like 3 a.m. Damien's friend knows a guy who can get us into a trade show in Chicago. You should ask Damien about that. He's got amazing taste. I figured he was another entrepreneur. Maybe a supplier or a co-founder type. I didn't love how animated she got when she talked about him, but I tried not to be that guy, the jealous boyfriend. Besides, she was living with me. She told me she loved me. That had to count for something. But the way her face lit up when she said his name? It didn't feel like business. At first, I kept my suspicions to myself. Maybe it was just insecurity, I thought. I didn't want to become paranoid over a name. But once you start noticing a pattern, it's hard to unsee it. Paige talked about Damien every single day. Not just in passing, he was in the details. Like how he hated the new font she was using for her packaging, or how he thought our apartment would be the perfect venue for her brand launch party. Our apartment. I was the one paying rent. I was the one who'd given her a home, helped her with groceries, never once asked for a cent. And now she was talking like it belonged to them. One night, I asked how long she'd known him. The question came out casually while we were brushing our teeth. I expected something normal, a year or two, or we met through work. Instead, she paused. We go way back, she said, like it was obvious. Like, years. He's practically family. The way she said it felt scripted, like she'd rehearsed it. And just like that, I couldn't stop questioning everything. The supplier trips she took every few weeks, always flying out last minute, always vague on the details. The weird hours, the missed calls, the locked drawer in her desk. Still, I didn't say anything. Not yet. A few days later, she brought it up. Damien, she said, had nowhere to go. He'd had a falling out with his roommates, some fight over unpaid rent or something, and he needed a place to crash. Just for a week or two. She looked at me with those wide, sincere eyes. He'll stay out of the way. He just needs a place to land while we sort out the launch stuff. I didn't like it, but I said yes. I told myself it was temporary. That maybe if I met him, I'd understand why she trusted him so much. That it would finally put my paranoia to rest. The next day, Damien showed up. 3 massive suitcases. A garment bag. And this smug, too familiar smirk like he already knew where the coffee filters were. Paige lit up when she saw him, hugged him for just a little too long. And that first night, as I lay awake listening to them laughing in the living room, I realized. He didn't feel like a guest. He felt like he'd come home. It only took 3 days before I couldn't stand it anymore. Damien was everywhere. He walked around the apartment barefoot, borrowed my cologne, left wet towels in the bathroom, and never once offered to pitch in for groceries or utilities. He treated the place like a crash pad, and me like a ghost. He and Paige were always whispering, laughing, touching shoulders when they talked. She never used to be that physical with anyone, especially not in front of me. I was going insane trying to act normal. One night, I came home from work and found the two of them reorganizing the living room to create better energy flow for their product launch. They'd moved the couch, replaced my wall art with her brand mood boards, and cleared my coffee table for what they called a blessing bowl, a glass dish full of crystals and dried sage. I stood there staring, and Damien actually had the nerve to say, "You don't mind, right? This is kind of our workspace now." Our. I looked at Paige, expecting her to laugh or correct him. She didn't. She just smiled like I should be grateful to host the great visionaries of wellness. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I got up around 2 a.m. to grab a hoodie from her closet. Hers were always softer, and that's when I saw it. A thick leather-bound album tucked behind a box of product samples. I wouldn't have noticed it if the edge of it hadn't been sticking out slightly. I pulled it out, flipped it open, and froze. Paige, in a white dress. Damien, in a tux. Smiling, kissing, cutting cake. The date stamped on the inside cover? 3 years ago. There were photos from a beach honeymoon. Candid shots with friends. A blurry but unmistakable picture of a marriage certificate. I stood there in the dark, the album open in my hands, my brain short-circuiting. Paige and Damien were married. Still married. The startup? Fake. The trips? Vacations. The crash landing at my place? A planned move-in to save money while they rebuilt their brand with me as the unknowing landlord. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. And I was the mark. I didn't say a word. I closed the album, slid it back exactly where I found it, and stood there in the closet, heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. My whole body was electric. Rage, humiliation, adrenaline. But I wasn't going to blow up. Not yet. The next morning, while Paige and Damien were out at a supplier breakfast, I knew better now. I went back into her office and opened her laptop. She always left it unlocked. She thought I trusted her. Inside were dozens of emails and invoices, some real, most fake. Receipts for trips to Tulum and Sedona labeled as inventory scouting. Messaging drafts for their brand's fake launch campaign. And then I found the gold mine. An email to Damien titled The Jordan Plan. It laid everything out. How Paige convinced me to let her move in rent-free, how they could live cheaply while prepping a real launch once they had enough padding, and how I'd probably never ask questions if she kept playing the role of loving girlfriend. She even joked about how I still thought she drank the tea. I took screenshots of everything. Then I went back into the closet, grabbed the wedding album, and took photos of the entire thing, page by page. I found the original marriage certificate folded inside an old birthday card. Took a picture of that, too. By noon, I'd packed every single one of Paige's things, her clothes, her oils, her desk junk, her printer, even her weird dehydrated sea moss jars, and moved them into the garage storage unit that came with the apartment. I changed the padlock and set the code. Then I changed the apartment locks. I sent the wedding album photos and emails to my friend Zach, who's a lawyer, just in case things got messy. I also called the building manager to notify them of unauthorized occupants and officially removed Paige from my emergency contact list. All that was left was the message. I kept it short. Simple. Just enough to let her know the game was over. Hey Paige, your husband is welcome to start paying rent now. But neither of you are welcome here. Your things are in the storage unit. The code is 7361. Good luck with your brand. I sent it at 2:04 p.m. By 2:06, my phone exploded. The first voicemail was just breathing. The second one came a minute later, Paige's voice, frantic, high-pitched. What the hell is this? Jordan, what are you doing? This is a massive overreaction. Please just call me. By the time I got home from running errands, I had 9 missed calls. 3 from her. 4 from a number I didn't recognize, probably Damien. 2 from a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to in months. Then the text started. You're making a huge mistake. This is not what it looks like. We can explain everything. You can't just lock people out like this. It's illegal, you know. You need to grow up and talk to us. You're seriously unstable right now. Call me. I didn't respond to a single one. I poured myself a drink, put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and watched a rerun of The Office while they spiraled. Later that night, a long, furious email came in, this time from Damien. He accused me of emotional sabotage, said he'd sue for illegal eviction, and claimed I was jeopardizing a real company that employs people. The kicker? He signed it co-founder and CFO, Solaris Wellness. There was no company. Their LLC hadn't even been finalized. I forwarded the email to Zach, my lawyer friend, and he replied with a single word, idiots. The next morning, I woke up to a softer tone. Paige left a long voice note crying. Real tears this time. Or maybe just well-performed ones. I messed up, she said. But you don't understand. Things got complicated. I didn't mean to lie. Damien and I were separated, like, emotionally. It wasn't even a real marriage anymore. We were just trying to. I don't know, Reset. I was going to tell you. I really did love you. I sat there listening, letting it wash over me like static. I didn't delete it. I didn't save it. I just let it sit there in my notifications, a little monument to the version of her I once believed in. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. A week later, I got a message from someone I didn't know. A guy named Mark. He'd found my story, or at least part of it, on Reddit. He asked if I was the Jordan from a thread called My Girlfriend Was Living With Me While Secretly Married to Her Business Partner. I hadn't posted anything, but someone else had. Mark had his own story. Paige had done the same thing to him. Mark's message hit me like a second betrayal. He lived in another city for hours away. He sent screenshots, texts from Paige, photos together, even a flyer for a wellness pop-up she'd supposedly co-hosted, with Damien listed as logistics lead. It was the same pitch. The same fake company. The same stories about late-night brainstorming and supplier trips. She'd been shuttling between us for months, using the business as cover. Even the date overlaps were unmistakable. She'd spent weekends with him on her work trips and crashed at my place during the week. Damien, it turned out, was never just the business partner or the husband. He was the anchor for both of her double lives. Mark and I traded notes. He was just as blindsided, just as furious. But unlike me, he had receipts, texts from Paige accidentally sent to him that were meant for Damien. A photo of her suitcase in his hallway that matched one in my apartment. Even an email thread between Paige and Damien about maximizing Mark's rental budget. We compared timelines, gathered screenshots, and realized she hadn't just manipulated two men, there was at least one more. Mark pointed out a third guy in an old Instagram post, another brand partner Paige tagged during a supposed launch weekend in Miami. Reddit got a hold of the story. The threads exploded. Armchair detectives pored over old posts, pieced together dates, and connected the dots. Some people recognized Paige from influencer events. Others shared warnings about Damien's reputation for business scams. Someone found their fake company's website, stock photos, fake testimonials, and a Shopify page that hadn't made a single sale. Within a day, Paige and Damien's social media accounts were bombarded with comments, some angry, some mocking, some just dropping popcorn emojis. Their startup's email address was leaked. The internet did what it does best: expose, mock, and amplify. Paige tried to defend herself online, claiming everything was a misunderstanding. Damien threatened legal action, but by then, the story had spiraled out of their control. The Solaris Wellness launch was over before it began. Even the apartment complex left a warning on the building's tenant portal, cautioning residents to vet business partners before sharing their space. Through it all, I kept my head down. I watched as Paige and Damien's carefully curated double life unraveled in real time, no longer my burden to carry. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. Paige and Damien disappeared from my life as suddenly as they'd entered it, but the aftershocks lasted for weeks. My phone kept pinging with DMs from people who'd followed the saga online, some sharing their own stories of scammers, others just wanting to know how I'd pulled it off so calmly. Honestly, it didn't feel calm while I was living it. I was angry, sure. Humiliated. But mostly, I just wanted my life back. Every reminder of them, the crystals, the half-finished launch materials, even the stupid blessing bowl, went straight in the trash. Zach, my lawyer friend, told me not to worry about Damien's threats. He'd handled the paperwork. The building manager kept an eye out, just in case. For a while, I half expected Paige to show up with some new story, but she never did. Eventually, even the voicemails stopped. I started over. I repainted the apartment, changed the furniture, deleted every photo of her from my phone and my mind. I took a hard look at why I'd ignored so many red flags, the vague answers, the secrecy, the way Paige made me feel lucky just to be included in her life. What stuck with me most wasn't the betrayal itself, but how easy it was for someone to slip in, build a story, and make me question my own instincts. I promised myself I wouldn't let that happen again. Reddit moved on, as it always does. Another wild story, another villain for people to roast in the comments. But sometimes I'd get a message from someone who'd been in a similar spot. They'd ask, "How did you know when to walk away?" Or, "How did you keep your cool?" The answer was simple. You can't always spot a liar right away, but you can pay attention when the story keeps changing, when the names, the facts, even the last names don't quite add up. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a confrontation or an angry post. It's just taking away their access and moving on with your life. A few months later, I met someone new. Someone who knew what tax returns were. Someone who could answer a question without changing the subject. She made me laugh in a way Paige never did. Real, steady, honest. I still keep the lock code for the storage unit saved in my phone, just in case Paige ever tries to claim she left something behind. She won't get back in. Not this time.